It is said that the more world changes, the more it remains the same. We may infer various meanings. We can also infer one of the meaning that often we tend to repeat the mistakes. Today, I want to talk about something very, very significant, and that something has its origin in the post Second World War development. So, what is the most remarkable achievement which can be understood in a positive sense after Second World War? Of course, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. How should we look at Universal Declaration of Human Rights? They are part of international law. And because international law is voluntary in nature, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights are the moral rights. They aim to establish a new normative order. What is the purpose behind this new normative order? The purpose is we should be avoiding the tragedies like the First World War and the Second World War, and how to establish a new world order which can prevent such occurrences. Among many of such ideas was the idea of the human rights. The idea of human rights, unfortunately, has its origin in Hitler's solution to the Jewish question. So, leaving the story here, I want to point towards one very important provision of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and that is the Article 15. What does Article 15 tells? Article 15 tells that everyone possesses the right to nationality, means disenfranchisement, taking away the rights of a citizen, can be a very serious violation of human right with the consequences which can be as grave as the world wars. The politics of people, this is what we have seen, has never been out of the domain of the world politics. And today we can talk about world politics. The most important issue in the world politics is the issue of refugees, asylum, illegal immigration. So states have always played the politics of nationalities, the politics of citizenship. In India's neighborhood, we have seen Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, we have seen that Sri Lanka has gone through the periods of the violent civil war. And one of the reasons of the violent civil war was the government of Sri Lanka's attempt to disenfranchise the Tamil citizens who were primarily concentrated in the north and the northeastern part. Today, if we talk about the international politics in Europe, everywhere, what is the major issue? The major issue is immigration issues, the asylum issues, the refugees issues. Samuel P. Huntington has held that in the post Cold War world order, what we can expect more, less of interstate conflicts, rather, more and more of the civil war or the civilizational conflicts. Why I am mentioning these concepts? Because as a student of political science, as a student of international law, you need certain language, you need certain vocabulary to understand certain developments. And the development which I am going to talk today is related to the recent notification by the Home Ministry with respect to the rules for the implementation of the Citizenship Amendment Act. And why I have picked up this issue and tried to open up the different political angles of this issue, because Citizenship Amendment Act, which got assent by the President in 2019, has been a very controversial issue. And once it got assent, we have seen a mass protest. We have also seen the women in Shaheen Bagh protesting against Citizenship Amendment Act. We have seen that when US President Donald Trump was on his visit to India in February 2020, Delhi had witnessed the riots. There have been so many controversial events associated with. And from yesterday onwards, that is from Monday 11th March onwards, what we have seen, a new round of controversies are emerging. If the ruling party is talking about how Citizenship Amendment Act and its implementation is an approach towards strengthening the human rights, in the sense protection of the rights of the persecuted minorities living in the Indian subcontinent, primarily the three countries Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh. The opposition parties are talking about that Citizenship Amendment Act and its attempts to implement these rules can be a idea which can threaten the very basic structure of the Indian constitution, which can be challenged and which is actually challenged on the ground of Article 14, on the ground of secularism, and regarding the constitutional validity of Citizenship Amendment Act. We can say that is still the Supreme Court has not put the act on hold, but the validity issue from the angle of Article 14, how it impacts Supreme Court's own judgment with respect to the state of Assam with respect to NRC is still pending issue. So there are a lot of things, and also there is a federal angle that has got involved. So what is the federal angle? That certain states, for example, Kerala, secondly, Tamil Nadu, and even West Bengal. Kerala has gone to the extent that they may not be implementing the Citizenship Amendment Act and its associated rules. However, West Bengal, they have made a statement where the implementation has been made conditional. And again, the politics is boiling in Assam, in different regions of Northeast, and after the government has announced about the possibility of implementation by bringing the rules, there is also sufficient steps taken in the capital to ensure that 2020 things do not get repeated and the law and order, public safety, peace and tranquility is not impacted. Thus, the Citizenship Amendment Act, along with these rules, they are a Pandora box full of lot of politics. You can talk in favor of it, you can talk against it. And this complicated political question is bound to make the student of political science or the ordinary student or the student who is preparing from the purposes of civil services quite perplexed, because this is a complicated issue. There are constitutional angle involved. There are historical angle involved. There are theoretical aspects involved to make sense of this particular issue. So that is why I am trying that you understand the story in the PPT, we have given certain important facts which may be important for you from the perspective of exam. So, the issue revolves around the issue of citizenship. Now, citizenship is obviously one of the most important of the political concepts because it establishes the relationship between an individual and the state. And how important is right to have nationality or right to citizenship. I have already told about that this was one of the reasons that has led to the Second World War. This was one of the reasons that Sri Lanka has faced the civil war, and this is considered as one of the basic human rights. But every country has its own story. We cannot generalize. We cannot say that something that worked in Germany or something that will work in US will work in India because India has its unique experience. So, how our constitution looks at citizenship, what is the unique experience and how the citizenship laws and the citizenship rules have evolved in India. To begin with, we can say that we started our journey with one of the most unfortunate event which continues to haunt the South Asia's future like Banquo's ghost, and that is the event of partition. And what was the worst? The partition on the ground of religion, and thus emerged the two nation states, and with this emerged the question of nationalities and the question of citizenship. So, the nature of citizenship in India and the nature of citizenship in Pakistan in theoretical terms do not differ. India being a secular state, here we have adopted the principle of equality before law, and Pakistan, based on the Islamic principles, was supposed to be a land for the Muslims of the subcontinent. However, after the creation of Pakistan, the the leader of Pakistan, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, he has assured the minorities in Pakistan that they do not have to fear any type of persecution. And definitely, I can say that the Pakistan of today is certainly very different from the idea of Pakistan which Jinnah has talked about. So he has given this particular promise that minorities need not to fear and they can live as equal citizens in Pakistan. So that was the gentleman promise on which the many minorities in Pakistan have trusted. And though a large scale migration has taken place from Pakistan towards India or from India towards Pakistan, is still in both the countries people stayed back. For example, in Pakistan, many people stayed back because leaving a country means you are leaving your livelihood. You are living in certain area and suddenly you have to go out of the certain areas. Wherever the refugees go, I don't think that refugees are welcomed anywhere. So there have been certain obvious reasons people have trusted the gentleman promise of Muhammad Ali Jinnah. I don't know to what extent we can consider Jinnah as a gentleman, especially after the partition and the type of anger we feel against him, but still, as a proverbial gentleman promise, Pakistan has promised its minorities that they do not have to fear. But unfortunately, there has been a big difference between the promises and the reality. So what we see that after Jinnah, the later leaders, and especially at the time of Ziaul ul Haq, we see the persecution of the minorities in Pakistan started in a big way, and Islamization of the Pakistani society has started, and even we can say that the atrocities not only against the minorities in Pakistan continued, but also against the very intellectual sections of the minorities in Pakistan because of Pakistan coming under the wave of civilization. And from there starts the story of people coming to India to find the shelter, to be able to live a life of dignity. There have been so many incidents reported where the daughters, the girls, the women of the minorities have been abducted, they have been forcefully converted, and various type of discrimination and crimes that have been faced by the minorities. And when I talk about the violence against minorities in Pakistan, that also includes the East Pakistan, which is now a Bangladesh, because earlier it was a single integrated nation. We see the persecution. And surprisingly, the persecution is not only against the Hindus, the persecution has also been against the different sects within Islam also. It's not that only Hindus and Christians have been persecuted, but even the Muslims. For example, the Shia Muslims, the Ahmadiyas, and Sufism, which is also a variant in Islam, which number of time the Salafists or the Wahhabists who practice a puritanical orthodox form are not ready to tolerate. So what do we see in South Asia? Obviously, we see the basic human rights violation, and we see the violation of the human dignity. Now, in this context, the present government, as a part of its 2019 election promise, has brought the Citizenship Amendment Act. From the perspective of government, I can say that they look at the present act as a unfinished agenda of the partition, because partition meant division of the people, division of boundaries, and partition gave the chances to the people to move from one place to the other place. But because certain people, because of their occupational reasons, because of their livelihood reasons, for example, they trusted the so-called gentleman promise of Jinnah and remained there, and they had to suffer. So it becomes our moral duty to undo the historical injustice, to undo the historical harm that has been developed, or for to extend the hand of humanity and dignity to the people who have been betrayed by their state. And this is the ideological or the philosophical basis of which Citizenship Amendment Act is based. Now, we also need to understand the approach of the Constitution towards the citizenship issue. So, first of all, if we see the plans, then what we see, Indian Constitution talks about the preamble, which is not a enforceable part. The second thing, Indian Constitution talks about union and its territories. The third thing, it talks about citizen, and after part 2 begins part 3, that is fundamental rights. So though Indian Constitution undoubtedly was written at the time when Universal Declaration of Human Rights has come into existence, that is why we have extended certain rights to even those who are not the Indian citizen. But who will be a citizen, who will not be a citizen, is always a privilege of the government. And because the government also has to ensure not only the human rights, but government has to ensure the security and the territorial integrity of the state. Of course, it is a complicated question, and no complicated question has the simple answers and the simple solutions. Any issue in politics which is as controversial with so many stakeholders is obviously to be understood from the multi-dimensional perspective. If talking to me, when you link the rights of the minorities or rights of certain people or human rights, Hannah Arendt, who is one of the earliest critics of the human rights, held that the entire scheme of human rights is very, very hollow, because you should have right to have rights. Means if you are not a citizen of any country, you cannot talk about the rights. So what point I am trying to make is, first of all, you have to, those who are talking about the fundamental rights, they have to first understand that first comes union and its territories, and second come the citizenship. And once you are citizen, then you have the fundamental rights. But India has extended those basic civil rights not just to the citizens but even to the non-citizens, but it is always going to be the prerogative of the state. This is exactly the citizenship idea given in the Indian constitution, where constitution only makes the bare minimum provision which were related to the migration, etc., at the time of independence, but it has left it on the parliament to determine the citizenship laws. And again, the things keep on changing, environment keep on changing. That is why the governments have power to bring law from time to time. Now, you may disagree with whatever objective the government is. There is an opposition by the political parties, but first of all, we have to understand that it is a legal right of any constitutionally constituted government under Article 11 to bring a law of their choice. And now it is judiciary to decide the constitutional validity of that particular law. But we cannot take away the right of the duly constituted government to have a law of their choice. Now, if people are not supporting this law, democracy also offers a solution that if you do not like it, you do not extend your consent to the government, you can withdraw, you can form your government, and you can have a law of your own choice. So anyway, suppose this government goes and the new government comes and they do not agree and they do have a consensus of the people, by simple legislation they can bring an amendment and they can change it. And you have to understand this particular thing, that this is a prerogative of the government which we cannot take. But at the same time, the government should also be sensitive that it should not be following any preferential policies. It should always look from the long-term interest of the country. And of course, we as an outsider may not be understanding the various nuances related to the security of internal and external issues. So, as a citizen, we can only debate on what is not to right, what is right from our perspective, but obviously that is government's prerogative. Even Supreme Court has not put a stay on the implementation of the law, but Supreme Court is still to decide certain questions about the validity of this particular law, whether this particular law will pass the test of Article 14, whether this particular law will pass the test of Article 21, etc. So that is a legal angle, and we have to wait for the verdict of the Honorable Supreme Court to come up, because as an ordinary citizens with the limited knowledge of law, we may not be completely be in a best position to make the judgments. The most important thing is, as a citizen, we should be knowing the intricacies of the entire issue. So what we see that there are two major reasons for opposition of the Citizenship Amendment Act. One major reason is in context of the Northeast, and there is a protest by the organizations in Northeast, including including Assam Students Union, and they have burned the copies because they feel cheated, and they believe that this will make the 1985 Assam Accord hollow, because 1985 Assam Accord between Government of India and ASU says that they will be providing, or the citizenship will be provided to all those who have come to India before 25th March 1971. But the Citizenship Amendment Act, how it goes against it, because it is putting the cutoff date not on 71, but the cutoff date on 31st December 2014. So this create a complication. Though Citizenship Amendment Act is not applicable in certain regions of Northeast for which the autonomous districts or for which the sixth schedule exists, it does not apply even for those regions where inner line permit exists. But still, the vast area and especially the basic problem will emerge in Assam, because people in Assam feel cheated. They feel that in this way, the people, those who have been ousted or those who have been considered as an illegal immigrant based on the 1985 Assam Accord, it is another route to grant them the legal citizenship. And they feel that this will change the demography of the region in the Assam and other parts of the Northeast. Now, in rest part of the country, the Muslim minorities feel that this is an attempt for further marginalization of the minorities, and here, like, they link it that it is like changing the secular character of the constitution, and they feel that uh, India as a secular state should not have made a discrimination on the ground of religion, by which we means to say that under CAA, basically it is about making the acquisition of India's citizenship process easy, reducing the time, and but it is limited only for the six minorities, for example, Hindus, Jains, Sikhs, Buddhists, Parsis, and Christians who are living in these three states. So the first question is why the Muslims who have been persecuted, they are not given this benefit. So the government's position is Muslims are persecuted, but at the same time, this is meant for the minorities who are persecuted on the ground of religion. And the government says that even the persecuted Muslim minorities and different sects, they are not stopped from getting India's citizenship. This is just a facilitation of this community, and they continue to have an opportunity to gain the citizenship. Now, the another angle that is raised is why only Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Bangladesh? Why this benefit has not been extended to some other countries? For example, Rohingyas will be the religiously persecuted minorities, minorities persecuted on religious ground in Myanmar, but this benefit is not extended to Myanmar, or this benefit is not meant for those who are seeking citizenship. Similarly, Tamils are the persecuted one from the Sri Lanka, but Tamils are not included into this. So, in short, we can say that everyone has some or the other reason not to be happy with the Citizenship Amendment Act. At the same time, there are so many who have lot of reason, and they feel that government has done the right thing. As a student and the observers of Indian politics and the constitutional angle, we have to wait, or we are eagerly waited about how the Honorable Supreme Court is going to take decision on this. Here I have prepared a slide which will just tell you some of the important points of my discussion, my line of thought on this issue, and this you can use for your further references. So first of all, I have mentioned about Article 15, which talks about right to nationality as a basic citizenship right. Now, I was talking about Hannah Arendt, the first critic of human rights, who said that right to have right. This means right to nationality is so important before realizing any other human rights. Now, why I have picked up this topic? Because you know that the Home Minister has talked about the Citizenship Rules 2024, which will create the administrative structure for the implementation of the Citizenship Amendment Act. Now, things to watch is it was a part of election manifesto, it was controversial, and again, the salient points have been the six communities for which this act applies for the three states you can see, and it is believed that the report of intelligence bureau says that around 30,000 immediate beneficiaries are there. And this is what I was mentioning, that in 2020 it has sparked the riots. It has also got politicized. Even Bhim Army Chief Chandrasekhar, former election commission Wazahat Habibullah, and all, they have got involved. One interesting development has been that one book was written, The Delhi Riots 2020, The Untold Story, and the publisher Bloomsbury has withdrawn, that it is no more interested in publishing it. And again, what is the immediate reaction right now? All Assam Students Union and 30 indigenous organizations have burned the copies of Citizenship Amendment Act in different regions of state of Assam, like Guwahati, Barpeta. So these are some facts to understand the reactions against it and the controversies. So don't go into technicalities, understand the controversies. The biggest reaction against it is bound to come from Assam, because they feel that this is violation of the Assam Accord, and this is also making the exercise of NRC futile, because NRC is what is screening exercise, and then all those uh, who have come to India after 71 or who do not possess a valid document and will otherwise get disqualified, it is like they are going to get the citizenship through this particular route, and then minorities fear that it is another majoritarian agenda. So legal status for this year's prelims, just remember, around 200 petitions are pending. The important case is the Indian Union Muslim League versus Union of India case. And the issues involved, I said Article 14, the issue of secularism, and Article 21, whether it qualifies this particular test. And you should see Section 6A, which is related to the determination of illegal immigration in context of Bangladesh, and Section 2, Clause 1B, which is made changed, and by which the illegal immigrants and certain disqualifications related to this gets removed. So these are certain facts. You can go like what are the major amendments that have been introduced. Section 6A will be in the news. I have also clubbed the areas for which this will not apply. So I believe that if you will go through the PPT, you will get to know what are the important points to look forward, and hopefully you have got the gist of the thing, the gist of the politics that is happening. And this particular discussion will help you in understanding the loads of articles which are going to come in the newspaper on this issue. Thank you.